Hi, it's Nicola with Nina again for Coffee and Candid Chats. Hi, Nina.
Hello, hello, Nicola. How are you?
I'm okay. I've got the wild and woolly look with my hair today. So, what are we discussing today? Well, we're going to talk about that quiet moment when you realise you no longer fit in the workplace. So, it's a big one.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Oh,
So,
yes.
Nina, have you ever had that moment when you've realised, like perhaps you've changed, or perhaps the people around you haven't yet caught up?
Oh, well and truly, well and truly. It was really when I knew that, I wanted to run my own business, but I was like not sure how to go about it. And for me, I guess it really, really hit, when I changed mentally, in every sense of the word. I could hear this, like feel the shift changing quietly. Yeah, I'm waffling a bit as I'm trying to, because I'm actually being taken back to about 2017, really, was when I decided, as a team leader. And because I cared about my staff, I had a high turnover of staff because I was ambitious. They were ambitious. And you kind of, when you were a team leader, in where I worked, you had a set sort of like format that you'd then go on to be a senior officer, one, two, da 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 da. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I want to run my own business.
Wow.
And wasn't really on the agenda, and I wasn't popular for it because I'd say my big mistake was I spoke to my line manager about it. And that kind of really backfired because in a roundabout way, I was being written off. Um, People who I'd trusted, I'd worked with them for a number of years. I kind of thought they'd be really pleased for me. And maybe it's a little bit of jealousy or something like that. I'm not really sure. But behind the scenes, what I started to do, I started like working on myself. I started looking at running businesses. I was actually, it's that imposter syndrome, isn't it? Where it's like one step forward and about a million backwards. So I guess really when you think about it, so when I stepped back into my new space, both literally and emotionally, I'd realised I'd outgrown the old version of me, the one that wanted to be a team leader, that wanted to stay in that place and go through the motions moving forward, if that makes sense.
It does make sense because I think I can remember moments where I'd been in a business stream in a department. Several times this happened to me, and I'd been there a few years. I kind of felt comfortable with what I was doing, and I didn't feel stretched anymore. And I felt like I was stagnating, and I was like, what do I do now? What's my next step? Do I go for promotion? What do I do? And we had lulls where sometimes there were no promotions, and it would go on for quite a long while because we'd be perhaps reducing our numbers, etc. And so it was incredibly difficult. So what I would have to do is look, is this a genuine, is this a genuine, what's the word I'm looking for? A genuine need to move on,
Yeah. Or
or
is it
is it I need to find
weather?
something else? Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's the weather. It's that type of, it's winter, isn't it? It's dark
Yeah.
mornings and dark nights, and I've had enough of this. Nobody values me anymore, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think sometimes it was that, and you have to accept that, and you have to look at yourself and say, okay, so how can I change my mindset? Definitely. Um, so, and it is a strange feeling, isn't it? It's very hard. It's a bit like going in treacle, isn't it?
It really is. It's going through the motions and clock watching, and you just it's kind of like, the things that used to light you up don't light you up anymore. You started having that heavy feeling, like you said, going through treacle. I wasn't miserable. I just wasn't connected anymore. I was disconnected.
Yeah,
I didn't when they come along and they wanted to give you these extra tasks to do, and you're thinking, I can't be bothered. It's not my job description. I don't want to do this. It,
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of, I wasn't about chasing something new to do with the workplace. I just wasn't aligning with who I'd become anymore. It just changed. It wasn't me. I think, yeah.
So, do you think that was because your values had changed, or I mean, can you pinpoint what it was that had changed about you?
I would say my values had changed well and truly because, again, as we say, a lot of especially in the local authority. It's always about cost saving, isn't it? And saving money. So they were always having reshuffles and the reshuffles, and then you had to apply for your job again. And then the management I was on was kind of the bottom of the management, where I was directly with the workforce in a roundabout way. And when it got down to me, it was about putting more work onto everybody. And I just didn't like that.
Yeah.
I just, that wasn't me. I was about empowering, supporting, bringing people on. And that just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, and I totally get that because certainly I can remember many an occasion where our numbers would be reduced and our workloads would increase. So it demoralizes you when you're trying to do the best job possible. And I don't think that that's necessarily realized by the very senior management at time. And plus their
Exactly.
hands are tied because ours was from the government. So they had to do what they had to do, and that was the end of it. But when you want to give your customers a good, a decent service and get the right outcomes for them, that's incredibly difficult to move forward on, isn't it? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it is. It's kind of, it's a bit of fear, isn't it? But it's not a failure. It's of letting people down. So for us, like our stakeholders was, like you say, the Joe Public.
yeah,
It's, that's who you are in the council for. But we've been conditioned to be like dependable, haven't we? And the one who keeps it all together. So, you know, it's kind of like you say, it's hard. And it's kind of like you're having these thoughts, these feelings yourself, but you're trying to keep it all together. Keep your team sort of like the moral up in your team where they're feeling put on, somebody's left. And instead of somebody being brought in to like cover this extra workload, they're having to share it amongst themselves. And it's kind of like you're having those one-to-ones with the team and they're not happy and you're not happy. And it's kind of like, and you don't want to be in that job anymore. It's
yeah,
you no
yeah.
longer fit, do you? I guess that's it. It's no longer that. It's no longer that per. What is it? I always say it the wrong way round. Is it a square peg in a round hole, or a round hole in a square
Oh,
peg?
I always get that one wrong. So is it around? Yeah, no, I've no idea, but it sums it up nicely.
That's it. Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I think what you have to do is, from my point of view, is if you're getting those vibes and they're not going away, you need to sit down and you need to work out what is it about the job that means that you no longer want to be there? Is it something you can fix or isn't it? If you can't fix it, then what steps are you going to take to change out of that role? Are you going to apply for new jobs? Are you going to study? What are you going to do? And like you did, and I did that eventually, is set up your own business. So it's understanding what the steps are to get there, isn't it? And it's like planning it like a proper project, really. Because if you just dive into it, you probably make the wrong mistake.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's with me. I was doing lots of it was kind of like free mentoring. I was doing voluntary work because I signed up for oh, I forgot what it's called. I did it was the Prince's Trust before, obviously it's the King's Trust now. And there was another one, Career Ready or something I signed up. So I was doing voluntary work for that. But again, I will have been I could have probably started charging, but I didn't feel good enough. And now, like you said, it's like you had to start studying and doing research and reading up on books and watching YouTube videos. And I was buying loads of coaching types of books as well, and manuals and workbooks.
Yeah, and that makes sense
Learning.
because I did two Chartered Management Institute level 7 diplomas
Mm,
to prepare for being a consultant because I wanted to do it and know I was doing it the right way, not just the way I'd been taught in the workplace, because I was already going in and doing consultations with different business areas
yeah.
with my team, but I wanted to know that the structure we had was the right structure
Mhm.
and to give me all the knowledge I needed for going out and doing it on my own. So yeah, and I think it's really hard. I think you really need to think about what are your reasons for leaving, and is there a way within the business that you could adapt first of all?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I guess when I started redefining my own career, I did feel guilt. And, as though I wanted more, but I was being ungrateful because, they'd promoted me up to team leader. But I also, again, this is what we're saying to people who are watching us now, growth doesn't mean rejecting your past. And it doesn't mean you're being disloyal as well. They've given you something on the next path. And you and I often talk about everything for a reason.
Yeah,
I looked upon, my opportunities within the council for the team leader, for all the opportunities as a step forward to running my own business. So it's part of that journey that you're continuing, moving
yeah.
forward. And anybody who's listening that and they're in that situation, Nicola and I are on hand. Do reach out to us because we can help you and save you maybe a couple of years that we went through.
Yeah, exactly. And bounce off us to really
Mm,
make sure that's the right decision for you.
exactly.
Um, and sometimes what happens is, well, you look at your job and you look at it on paper and you think this is a fantastic job. The team's fine, the role's stable, but something inside you tells you you've just outgrown it. So what do you do then? Well, as we've talked about, you need to sit down and evaluate exactly. Do you know what I did? I went and did a SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, because I'd been through this terrible trauma with a manager who'd made my life hell and who had shouted at me that I was stressed, as I've talked about in the past. And I was like, this isn't how you manage, and I really want to do a business, but what business am I going to do? And is this the right answer to me? So I did a SWOT, and it clearly came out that it was all about leadership and management, because that was what made my heart sing in the workplace. I was always trying to develop my team, like you.
Yes.
Um, and so I thought, well, that's what I did. And that then led to me saying, right, so I need a qualification to do this. Now, what we must be careful of, though, isn't it, Nina, is not to go overqualified. Think keep doing qualifications just to put off leaving.
There is that, yes, because it is hard, like you say. You've got the stability. We're all got our bills to pay, so it's kind of like I can't leave a job when it's secure. I know what I'm doing. It's straightforward. So you've got to be careful, but also be very careful. Again, you're looking at this and you want to run your own business or you want a different career. Be careful of the courses that you sign up to because there's a lot of sharks out there, isn't there, Nicola? And we've seen
Yeah,
of them that
absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
yeah, and you want to plan it. So with me, it was like listening to the whispers in my head, because they're giving you little nudges that this isn't quite right anymore. And like we were saying, you don't do anything dramatic, no big exits, no, I'm leaving, blah, blah, blah. You just start exploring, start talking to people who inspire you. Again, I keep saying about your phone, go on your phone, look at YouTube videos, look at maybe connecting with people on LinkedIn in the work that you want to do. See what they did, see what type of qualifications they did, they need.
Yeah.
Is there any way you could do some voluntary work just to get your foot through the door to try if it's something that you really want to do? And also, give yourself permission to imagine doing something new without judgment and no pressure. Because we all put so much pressure on ourselves, don't we?
We do, and it's really interesting as well, because one of the things I did before I left was I was very lucky in that I would find day events, things like understanding the future and where we're going at colleges and things. And I'd ask my boss if I could go and take it as a day in work, but go. And they were always really good. As long as I could bring it back and show the evidence that it was helping them inside, they were fine about it. And I used that as well to network, to meet people, to find out what opportunities were out there, and just to generally raise my awareness as well. Um, and there's also college courses, isn't there? And
Yes.
some of them, I did a counselling one. Do you know that was a long time ago? I did a 8 week introduction to counselling, and it was really good. I met such an assortment of people, and I think that was a starting block to mentoring for me, to be honest.
Hmm.
So you just don't know if you go and try some of these things, you don't know what it's going to spark in you, do you?
No, you don't. Or like you say, you don't know who you're going to meet. Like you just said, it was eclectic group of people that you met in the counselling course. And
Yeah,
it's, I always, everything for a reason, it's going to lead on to something. So I do all believe we're on like a life journey, and we've got crossroads, which is where we are at the moment. As we were talking about, you're stuck in your careers. What's the question? Am I staying because it fulfills me, or because it feels familiar? I'm paying the bills, or you know, I'd say again another time, and you're the same. It's once our children have grown up. Again, it's ladies because that's who we relate to. But it's once the children have grown up, and maybe it's either they've gone to the high school or they've gone to college or then the university, and you've got empty nest syndrome. Suddenly, you kind of think, "Whoa, what's next? What else can I do?" And that's like your time it's your time to get your time back again, isn't it?
it is really, and it's doing what you really love doing and what you want to do. So it's
Mm.
really important. So I think that and then that goes back to as well understanding your strengths. So when you understand what lights you up every day, what makes you passionate, you start to understand what's making you tick and what your strengths are, what motivates you. You can then look for something that fulfills you far more. Now, no job is ever going to no business either is ever going to be 100% of the time you're going to love every bit you do. But 80/20 sounds to me a good way to be going. So if you can find something that really lights you up, look
Hmm.
at how you can use that talent of yours, that strength, and move forward.
Absolutely, because I always say, do a job you love, and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, exactly. I've been very lucky. I can honestly say that my all the jobs I've ever had have lit me up more or less, except for cleaning. I don't like. I did a 2 week stint cleaning factories, and I really didn't like that one. And it's just because if you ask my husband, he cleans in our house, so that's probably tells you everything you need to know about me. Um, but yeah, no, that was something. But everything else, all the jobs I had in my civil service career, I absolutely loved. And what drove me to change for me was having bad experiences with managers. And when we look at the statistics, that's often what drives people away, isn't it? Bad managers. And again, some of yours was probably that as well.
It was kind of, I was moved in a job. I had a very good reputation. My name was highly regarded amongst the senior managers. And then I got a new manager, and she was on secondment, and I think she saw me as a threat, which is really sad. And so I was moved to a different office, actually in the hospital, and it was awful. I was so miserable. And I had to turn it on its head because, again, to start with, you like, why is it happening to me? It's not fair. Do they know who this is? Blah, blah, blah. And I think it was great powers that be, because if that had not happened, I'd not moved out to the hospital into an office that I really disliked. I used to have to walk past the morgue every day, and that was just very depressing. I could have still been there now, and I wouldn't be living in Rose Cottage because I'd have been too far away from my place of
Mm.
work.
So it actually gave you the push that you needed.
It gave me the push. So I'm very grateful. So if that manager's watching, thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. It does, it pushes you to do something.
Hmm.
So, Nina, what's one question someone could ask themselves if they're sitting in this place right now, not sure whether to stay or move?
Am I staying because it fulfills me, or because it feels familiar, and because I like the salary?
Yeah.
It's safe. I feel safe because I feel safe.
And that's a really good question because often we get stuck in a rut
Mm.
because well we'll not get this money anywhere. I know somebody who stays in the role that she has because the hours fit around her children. But at some point, the children will not be in that position that they need her there for certain times, and then she may be able to reconsider. But if that's happening, what would you suggest they do if they feel they've got to stay at that point in time?
Maybe make a note and go and have a chat with your line manager, like book some time in, like an appraisal, well, not appraisal, a one-to-one. Is there anything else you can do within that organization? Is there any promotion, or is there a side job, a job you can move sideways to do? Is there something else that's going to give you that spark? Because what you want is you want to be able to, the alarm clock goes up on a morning and you want to jump out of bed and have those cornflakes like a cornflakes commercial and just, woo, ready and we're off into work. And I know sometimes it's the drudge, here we go, and especially it's the dark mornings and the dark nights at the moment, it's hard. But you spend the majority of your time in the place of work. You've got to be happy. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
life is just passing by. And life is for living, not a rehearsal, as I always say.
And I love that. And that's exactly the same advice I would give anybody, having, and to also, as we've talked about, look at their strengths and look at what motivates them and go in with their managers with some ideas if they can as well. Now, if somebody came to me and said, "Oh, like, I'm thinking about where I'm going and what I want in my career," I'd always be really happy, like you would, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was.
And I would look at what options are there to give them some experience. So I can remember sending somebody to shadow in another department to see what that was like and whether that's what they wanted to do. Because I think as a manager, we have a responsibility to encourage and see people go past us and get promoted and do well. That's part of our nurturing side, I think.
Well, that's what I used to suggest in my one-to-one, especially with my apprentices. And in fact, with my other teams as well, I used to say, right, well, where do you want to work? Right, let me see who I know. Let me see if we can arrange you can go spend an afternoon there. So I used to do that.
Yeah, and it makes such a difference because people then feel supported, don't they? And
Yeah.
listened to, and then you build a trust as well. So that there is a bonus for the business as well as you and as well as them. So yeah. And something I'd ask as well is, are you still growing or are you just getting better at adjusting? And I think that's a really important point. If you're just adjusting, then are you stagnating actually?
Yes. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
very good one.
Yeah. So I think we've kind of talked about this and covered it. We've given you some ideas. So we've talked about, if you're staying, what do you need to think about? And maybe it isn't about leaving, but maybe it's about being more visible, being seen.
Hmm.
And so from there, Nina, is there anything else you would like to add before we finish?
I can't think of anyone. It's just be truthful to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because again, if you're unhappy in your place of work or you're bored, you're going to be giving off the wrong vibes. And it's going to bring a downer into your office or your team. And if you're just going through the motions, staff morale is going to really drop.
Yeah.
And you want to be truthful to yourself, be truthful to yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that's a nice place to end. So thank you for listening this week. Bye for now.
Goodbye. Goodbye.